Hello sports fan, this is Alonzo, I'm your host, and welcome to the Sports Express. If you've been knowing that the NBA playoffs is, as a matter of fact, is ongoing as of now. Last night, if you watched the games, and I know most of you NBA fans have seen the Oklahoma Thunder defeat the San Antonio Spurs. I still believe the San Antonio Spurs will pull this series out. I'll tell you why. San Antonio, they don't play. Most people consider their brand of basketball kind of boring. There's no flashiness. You know, there's no superstar that overshadows the team. Tim Duncan is the main person. However, you have outside of Duncan, you also have Parker and Ginobili, and then the rest of the cast. Now, one good thing about the San Antonio Spurs is they just get it done. That's what a 62-20 record would do for you in the regular season. I have to be honest with you and tell you that I didn't think San Antonio Spurs was going to be that good. I mean, I knew they was going to be good, but I didn't figure they would be 62-20 good. I'm a believer. I'm a big fan of Kevin Durant. I think that he's a beast. He's a monster. Westbrook, he's a good player. However, the problem I have with Westbrook is sometimes he forces things. You see him come down the court and he don't even wait for his teammate. He sometimes just try to force a shot in, and sometimes it costs them in the long run. Caron Butler, he's a good complimentary player, very good complimentary player. Now, I still feel, as I said before, that I do believe that San Antonio will pull this series out. One thing about the West, though, you know, the West this year, this has probably got to be one of the best years in terms of top to bottom 8 seeds. 8 seeds in basketball. You gotta understand, almost 3 out of 4 went to game 7. One of them went to 6. I mean, it was just that good this year. I mean, you talking about even Kobe Bryant wasn't even. The Lakers wasn't even in the playoffs this year. So I think that the West is going to be a conference to be dealt with in the next few years with Dwight Howard in Houston. You got Portland Trail Blazers. I mean, they are doing absolutely wonderful things like that in Portland. Now in the East, you have the Miami Heat, defending champion, 2-time defending champion. Indiana Pacers are giving them a good run for their money. However, Indiana isn't as strong as it was in the beginning of the year. In the beginning of the year, most people had pretty much felt that they could unseat the Heat. Now, I don't think not as much. You know, with you having the inside issue that they're having, teammates going at each other. You know, sometimes you have players not playing at their highest level. You know, but Indiana is, however, overall, Indiana is a very strong team. I do believe that Miami will pull this series out. Once they get to the NBA Finals, right now, I give the edge, a slight edge to the Miami Heat because they've won the championship. Now last year, you take away that three-pointer that Allen hit, that kind of pushed them over the top, over the Spurs. We could be talking about a different story now. The Spurs could be the NBA champions. So that's why I give the Heat an extra edge, because you have one of the best players on the planet on the Heat team. And then you got the second best on that team with Dwayne Wade. Chris Bosh, in my opinion, I think Chris Bosh is a good player. If he played at his fullest potential, he'll be wonderful. However, at times he can be lackluster or get pushed around in the paint. He's kind of a question mark. So right now, as I said, I believe that the Miami Heat has an edge. I want to give congratulations out to Beckett. He was pitching a no-hitter last night against the Philadelphia Phillies. I've watched Beckett for years when he played in Florida and in Boston. And he had some issues toward the end in Boston that sent him packing to go out to LA. And you looked at him last season and you probably felt like, maybe like I felt that he was kind of washed up. That maybe he was at the end of his career. But he showed last night that he's still to be reckoned with. Still have nasty stuff. Finally, I want to touch on an interesting situation that will be descending upon us this summer. As you know, at the end of this season, the big three in Miami, they all can actually opt out of their deal that they signed originally in 2010, which can make all of them free agents. Now, LeBron right now, he's kind of in between where he don't know what he wants to leave Miami. I mean, me myself personally, I think Miami is a great place for him. It's his team, technically. He has roots there. His family's there now. You know, his kids are there. The city of Miami actually love him. I mean, I can't think of a better situation for him to be in. You know, but I know when he left Cleveland not because he didn't love Cleveland. He left Cleveland because he needed some help. You know, he was almost like Jordan was when Jordan was playing against Detroit. Jordan could only do so much until finally he had to realize he needed help because Detroit was just beating him to pieces. But when they finally added Pippen and Armstrong and Paxton, and then he had Cartwright in the middle, then you begin to see a team as a whole. And Jordan began to hone his game and shut people down defensively. And Pippen was just as good out of Central Arkansas. So, in my summation, I do believe that LeBron leaving Cleveland was probably the best thing that could have happened to him, because all they was really doing was juicing him financially. Cleveland ownership, I might add, Dan Gilbert, but he wasn't making any real inroads to getting him the help that he really needed. He had Gibson, but Gibson was always hurt. Always hurt. So LeBron needs someone who he can rely on, that strong number 2 man. No one player wins the NBA championship by himself. Kobe learned that this year. But even though he was the main man on that team, he needed help. Now, unfortunately, injuries cut his season short. But even if he played the whole season, he wouldn't. I'm sorry, with the players that they have in that roster, his strongest will wouldn't have got them to the championship. And Kobe is one of the best players to ever grace the LA Lakers poster outside of Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But it was clear that he was going to need some help. Okay? You know, if anybody asked me, I would say Kobe is the closest thing you're going to get to Jordan. That man shuts you down defensively. That man can kill you scoring. He knows how to cut your heart out. So I think that in order for Kobe to go any further, he's going to need more help than what he has right now. Now, I want to touch on something that kind of puzzles me. A few years ago, when LeBron James made his proclamation that he was leaving Cleveland and going down to Miami, what we like to call the decision, Dan Gilbert kind of acted like a child. And he wrote a letter to the Cleveland fans and the rest of the people who's Cleveland Cavaliers fans across the United States. Now I want to touch off on a few things that he had wrote in his letter. Now, in here he basically states that our former hero, who grew up in the very region that he deserted this evening, is no longer a Cleveland Cavalier. This is clearly bitterly disappointing to all of us. Now he went on to say that this was announced within several days of narcissistic self-promotion, build-up, accumulation with the national TV special of his decision, unlike ever witnessed in the history of sports and probably the history of entertainment. Hasten said that you simply don't deserve this kind of cowardly betrayal. I personally guarantee that the Cleveland Cavaliers will win an NBA championship before self-titled former king wins one. Okay, let me stop right there. Why is he self-titled former king to you now at the end of that season? He wasn't a former king, self-titled king, but he was filling those seats up for you every night. He wasn't a self-titled former king when he was your poster child for the Cleveland Cavaliers and raised the profit and the value of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had been sitting at the complete bottom for years when Doughty and Price had left. That was just shrapnel that's left with that league, with that team, with that team. It was shrapnel. This guy, you can say whatever you want about LeBron. That was some hard stuff that I read on the internet when they was talking about him. This guy, he played that whole contract out. Never asked for a raise. Never asked for a raise or an extension or anything. He just asked for help. And he came out there and he gave them his all each night. Now they want to decide and say, oh, well, in the playoffs, he didn't give it his all. You keep getting beat up. You keep getting beat up when you don't have anybody helping you out. And eventually, you'll sit and say, you know what, that's it. You know, that man realized that he wasn't going to go no further than where he was. That man got them all the way to the finals, and it just wasn't enough. And Gilbert then wasn't putting in the maximum effort getting him the best that was out there available. They was trying to pretty much give him pieces to work with. So you got to give that man his credit. He never talked dirty about Cleveland or the owner or anything. No one gave him credit for that. He went down to Miami and he fulfilled his prophecy, and that was to be a champion king. But this guy was made for that. He was born to be a champion. When he was in high school, that guy was destined for greatness. He was destined for greatness. And now, here it is now, Gilbert, they talked to him recently, and he said, well, I don't apologize for what I said. Maybe I could have worded it different. But that wasn't to LeBron. It was to the fans. No, but you were still sitting there ostracizing James. And had them when he came to Cleveland, they made this man like some pariah. And he was still the professional. He still didn't talk nasty about the Cleveland Cavaliers fans. He still said he loved them. He never said one disdain thing about Dan Gilbert. And now here it is, he opting out, and surprisingly to me, he left the door open. He left the door open to come back to Cleveland. And I think that he deserved credit for that. Dan Gilbert only want LeBron back for his own personal financial gain. And he know he was wrong, but he has to be a man about it and admit, you know, I was wrong. I was wrong about the way that I went about it. Now everybody went and trashed LeBron James about how he went about it, but no one went out and trashed Dan Gilbert about it. And they should have. You know why? Because he have a right to go any way he go choose. You don't own any player. That's what makes me angry with a lot of fans who, when the players decide that they want to leave, that they want to sit and ostracize them and pariah and call them all like their name, whether it's racial or insulting or just ignorant. He's a grown man. He has a right to make his choice wherever he so chooses to go to, as long as he fulfilled his contract. And LeBron did that. You don't hear that when you see coaches that decide they want to leave. Look at the NCAA. They'll sit there and have those players, when they decide they want to transfer, either they'll tell them that they can't, or try to get them out of their scholarship, or they got to wait a year unless they go to a subdivision school. But those same coaches who sit there and look at you in campus and say, I love it here, and I'm going to stay. And then the next day, go and sit and sign a whole new contract and go to a whole nother college. And no one give that guy grief. Now you think about the trail of destruction, either from the player or the coach. Which one has a bigger trail of destruction? Take that player. He decides to leave. He decides to leave and go on his own to go somewhere where whatever program is suited for his talent. And then he has to go to a subdivision. But let's say he leaves. If he leaves, they can just get another player to take his place. Because there's a system there. Or whoever new coach might come in, there's a new system for him. He's going to have the quality of players that he can go and recruit. This college coach who sit up and leave and go to a whole nother school and decide to tell you at the last minute, now you have recruiters who have been going all around the country getting these players that suited for his talent, for his scheme, for that coach's scheme. Now all of a sudden, this player don't made, so to speak, commitment to come to the school. But he's making a commitment because that coach is supposed to be there. Now the coach ain't there. Now he's stuck in a school that might not be suited for his talent. Those coaches, assistant coaches, if he don't retain them, they got to go look for other jobs. The contract that has been signed, the athletic department that's got to go now and go look for a whole new coach, have a whole new coaching search. So he is more at stake when that coach up in boat than that player. There should be some rules instituted in for that coach. Okay, if you decide you're going to leave, not this, oh, will you pay us $300,000? Oh, well, if you got a $14 million contract, $300,000 is pennies. And most of the schools, whenever they do that, they pay it for them. You should be penalized yourself. Okay? Then if you're going to leave early, and you're going to bust your contract up without any kind of notice, any kind of fair notice to the university and the students should be able to leave and go to another program. And this coach should have to wait a year before he coaches somewhere else. Let him see, and let the university see what it feels like to have your legs cut off up underneath you. Now, sure, you can sit and say, well, if you let the players just leave whenever they want to, it'll be a mass free agency. No, you put in filters for them too. But you be fair about it. So I'm all about being fair in the NCAA and the NBA. And I think that getting back to the point that LeBron James was given a unfair handshake. He deserves to be given accolades because that man has been a great leader down at Miami. He's been a great ambassador for the NBA. And I think now that he's up for free agency and he can opt out if he decides to stay, wonderful for Miami. Hopefully he signed a max deal and he probably can sign another one if he don't go into sunset with 3 or 4 championships. But if he decides to go free agency, I wouldn't go to Cleveland. I wouldn't go to Cleveland because of Dan Gilbert. I wouldn't go to Cleveland because of some of the fans who sit inside, they wanted to burn his jersey. You know, there's such bigger things in life than to be ignorant and burn somebody's jersey up. What is that going to prove? What is that going to prove? That you're ignorant and nothing else? Oh, wow, he's a great Cleveland fan because his heart was broken. You have some people who sitting there almost about to cry. About what? There's bigger life things going on in life and you're going to get and cry about some basketball player who decided to go somewhere else. Now, what you need to do, people, is enjoy the game. Enjoy it. But be fair to the players. Put yourself in their position. If you have a job right now, I have a job. But if I decide to leave and go somewhere else, it's my choice, not no one else's. Not the people that I serve, not the people that I take care of. None of that matters. It's my choice, and it's your choice. And the same thing should go for professional sport. It's their choice, not yours, not ownership. Now, come on, people, let's be fair. I love sports, and I love my sports fans. You get a chance, go to my website, www.alonzosays.com. Sound off on my Facebook, on my Twitter. Let me know what you feel about this. Let's engage together. I look forward to this whole season on Sports Express of us talking about all multitude of things that's dealing with sports. This is raw. This footage is raw. And that's how it's going to be. If you have anything that you want to discuss or show ideas, bring it with you. I'm going to be talking about women's sports and the equality that comes with that, whether WNBA or Women's Professional Football League that hasn't been getting the kind of press it should be, but it should be. And it will on my show. So this is Alonzo sounding off for this week. But I'll see you next week at 1 o'clock p.m. on the Sports Express. Have a good day.